This video is going to be about after you get your clock soaked in kerosene and a little bit of motor oil, and you let it set, and then you let it run without a pendulum for a while. You usually let it set overnight with kerosene and a little bit of motor oil on the pivots, and then the next day you let it run for about a day on no pendulum. And then this is going to be the third day. The third day is when you're going to put the pendulum on, and then you let it run overnight. So this one's been running overnight, and the only thing we've done to it is just soaked the pivots in kerosene and put a little extra motor oil in it. And all this has done is loosened it up, and so we let it run overnight with a pendulum, and this is what it sounds like now. So you can see the weight's already dropped. It's been a long time since it's been wound, but you can tell it's completely run all the way almost to the end of its chain. So we're going to wind it back up. Once you get these limbered up, they won't take much weight. You won't have to use a very heavy weight. If your clock's in beat and it's working properly, small weight will run it as long as it's a 1-day clock. Now if it's an 8-day clock, you'll have to have a bigger weight to run it. But now some clock manufacturers like Herbert Hugh, he used a larger weight on his 1-day clocks. So if you have one of his movements, the weights will be bigger. But most of your just standard ones, like this, with the standard regular 25 in it, will run on a small weight. And these weights generally will be they'll be marked 275, but they won't weigh a whole lot, and they'll run real smooth on that. The bird will generally run on the same weight as the movement. It'll be a lightweight. Sometimes the music box will need just a little bit stronger weight because you've got that mechanism that's turning, that is opening this flap, and sometimes it takes a little bit more force to open this door and run the music box, depending on how strong the music box is and how big the drum is. So sometimes the third weight right here will be just a slight bit heavier. Sometimes you can run a larger weight like this, and it'll be a 375. Use a 375, but the rest of them will be a 275 on a 1 day. But now, even though they're marked that, you will have to weigh them on a scale because they all weigh different. Some will weigh a little bit more and some will weigh a little bit less. Now this one's a little bit larger. Now you can use a larger weight, like a 375. They will weigh a little bit more. You can use them, but I don't recommend them if they run on a smaller weight, because all you're doing is just putting more weight on the clock and doing more damage to your pivots. So if you can get your clock to run on keep time and run on a small weight, I would run it on a small weight. But if you really need a large weight, then you could go up to a 375. And you just have to play with it and put them on scales and see what will run Generally the movement won't take much force. The movement itself won't take much force, and the bird won't take much force. You can tell, we can show you this. This don't take much force to run a bird. The stronger the weight, the faster it'll cuckoo. But now your music box will use just a little bit more weight, because you're basically opening this door and running the music box. So it will use just a slight bit more weight. Sometimes you can get by with a lighter weight, like the 275. If you oil the mechanism real good where it turns, just don't put it on the comb part or the drum. As long as the music box is greased on the right spots and oiled in the right spots, sometimes you can get by with using a lighter weight. But if it dries out, you'll have to use a stronger weight. But that is something you'll have to play with, and you'll have to have a scale to measure your weights on. And that's how you get your clock in time. Now, if your clock is setting level and it won't tick, and you've got to turn it to one side or the other to make it tick and run and beat, that means your pendulum wire will have to be counterbalanced by bending it to the left or right on the inside. Now this will be the black wire, and it won't be the chrome wire that your pendulum hangs on. It'll be the black wire, and that'll be in a separate video on how to balance that one out. But what that does is it will balance the clock when the clock is level on the wall and it's not tilted to one side or the other. There's two prongs that rocks on a little wheel here, and it'll rock back and forth off the teeth. And if that wire gets slightly canted, you'll have one tooth hanging on, and it won't rock from tooth to tooth to make it click. So that wire will have to be adjusted to get that balanced, and that'll put it in time. But that'll be another video on that, and I'll go into more detail and show how that is done. But that is how you get your clock in time.